Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to another episode of JeremyCraft. We're starting off today's episode for the first time in a long time not on the island. If you watched the last episode, you'll recognize that we're at the location of the Old West Town project, and we're going to be starting off today's episode just by clearing out all the trees in the space and flattening out the ground. Once we're done that, we'll have a nice flat space to work with, and we can start planning out where all the buildings are going to go, and maybe get some basic plans laid out on the ground. So I'm going to get working on that. I'll time-lapse it for you guys, and I'll catch you when I'm done. Hey guys, welcome back from the time-lapse. I'm not sure how long the time-lapse will end up being, but this was about an hour's work, maybe a little bit more. It took a bit longer because I don't have a beacon to insta-mine, so all of these were mined one by one, which kind of extended the amount of time it took to do this, but we got a nice big space here. We can still extend it a little farther, and this can be knocked off, and this can be extended, but in general, we've got more than enough space for the town that I'm planning on building. Alrighty, here we are in paint.net. I've just taken a screenshot from the air, and I'm going to use it to lay out some of the plans I have for this area and give you guys an idea of what my sort of vision for this town is going to be. First off, I'm just going to give you guys a quick list of all the buildings that I'm planning on building in the town. So we've got the sheriff's office, a warehouse, a water tower, a hotel, a saloon, a general store, a bank, and a horse stable. Alright, and here is the general plan I have for the town. So as you can see, the whole town is oriented along a single main road. That's sort of how I've envisioned this town being: two strips of buildings, all closely grouped together with a single main road down the center. The water tower is going to sit alone, probably on this space over here, maybe over here, but most likely at the front because this is the direction that we fly into. And then all of the planned builds will just be on either side of the main street. So as you can see, I've already started marking off what some of these buildings are going to be. This isn't set in stone, I might switch stuff around, but this is sort of my general idea just to lay out how many buildings we have and what's missing. So as you can see, there are 2 buildings missing if I'm going to make it an even 4 and 4 on either side. So if any of you have any ideas for buildings that might be in an Old West town that I haven't included on my list, please feel free to comment. I would love to hear your suggestions. One that I'm considering is adding a blacksmith somewhere at the back end over here. But I'm not 100% sure that would fit on the main street and might put that in its own space over here. Now, the one thing I'm still a little bit unsure about is this wall. Originally, my plan for this place was for it to be an alive village with villagers walking around and moving between the buildings. But somewhere along the way, I kind of had this idea in my head that this could be like an old abandoned town where there would be cobwebs everywhere, everything would be falling apart and run down, and it would look like there had been people living here at one point but had left it to sort of rot. My only issue with that is that I don't really like to build villages without villagers in it. They always end up feeling very empty, and the only way to have villagers in here would be to completely wall it in just to keep them safe. And I cannot think of a design that would make sense within the context of an Old West town, since those towns, whenever you look at, old movies or pictures, they never have walls around them, just out in the middle of nowhere, So I'll probably have a think about this. I'll probably try and come up with some designs in a creative world and see if anything kind of looks natural to me. But it's going to take me a while to get any of these buildings in place anyway, so we've got some time to plan out what we want to do. Well, I was just repairing my tools in the end, and on my travel over, I was struck with a thought. And that thought was that this nether area is pretty terrible. We've got a tunnel to the creeper farm that isn't even high enough to fly through. We've got a couple flying tunnels, but they're just straight lines and then they branch off with little signs to tell you where to go. I've wanted to upgrade our nether hub for a while, but I haven't really had an idea of what I kind of wanted to build here. My original plan and the purpose of me building these in a straight line, if you stand here you can see the tunnel stretches out into a portal that direction and that direction, was that I wanted to build an ice track that went all the way back and forth and create a sort of set of like subway station stops. I had built something similar previously in one of our realm worlds and I thought it looked really cool, so I thought I would build it again here. But what I ended up realizing was that the stops wouldn't be super useful. The creeper farm is in one direction, we almost never need to go there. We probably won't go there for a very, very long time. And this station and the village, or the town project is super, super close. Like, you can fly there, and actually I can just show you on camera. You can fly here in like a second. And we're there. So it just seems unnecessary to use an ice track when we're going to be flying 90% of the time anyway. So what I came up with was something inspired by the nether hub that I built in this world before we switched over to this new season. I'll put a quick clip up on screen just to show you guys what I'm talking about, since I know not a lot of you have seen the world tour that I made. But what I've decided was that because this direction has no projects in it yet, I want to embed the portal in this wall very similar to the way that we've done it on the other side, exactly like this. I want to have a almost mirror image of what we have in the overworld, and then in the three directions where we have tunnels, they will also be natural caves heading off in all those directions. If anyone watching has any ideas that they think would look better or have any cool ideas, please feel free to comment. I would love to hear your guys' suggestions on what you think I can do with this area, but for now I think that's what I'm going to stick with. I'm going to widen out all of these pathways leading to the portals. I'm going to make sure that everything's lined up perfectly. I know some of the portals kind of cross out from the sides of the tunnels, so if it turns out it's closer to, you know, this tunnel than it is to this one, I'll reorient it, but when I'm done, this area should be a little bit more spacious, and it'll be easier to fly back and forth between all of our projects. Isn't that a weird sight? It kind of hurts my eyes to look down the tunnel. It looks like it's moving. Alrighty, we are done carving out the tunnels. We got all three of them knocked out here. I made them extra big so that when we like place the stone that's going to be like kind of dotted around here, you know, to make the cave shape, there'll be some space in the center to fly. I'm a little bit worried this is still going to be a bit too narrow, so I might have to widen it out a little bit more, like maybe one more block in every direction. But this is a good starting spot for us. I'm probably not going to do any more work on the nether hub in this episode, because I want to give myself a chance to just sit on the idea of the cave here and maybe hop into the creative world in between episodes and really like test some stuff out to make sure I really like the way it's going to look before I commit to building, because it's going to be a nightmare to get rid of if halfway through I realize that I don't like it. While I was building, I also had a bit of an idea that I could maybe make each of these tunnels like specific to where they're going. Like this one goes to the end portal, so maybe this one would have like an end theme. I don't even remember which of these goes to what, but we could make, for example, like the one that goes to the Old West Town could look like an old mine or something. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still deciding on what I want to do, so I'm going to let that sit in my brain, kind of come up with some ideas, and then when I've got an idea, I can actually start building. Oh, I almost forgot. I got this while I was mining. It's not that important, but I thought it was kind of interesting. I forgot that this even spawns this high in the nether. Oh. It's a cave spider spawner. I don't really have a purpose for that. We're good. Oh my god. There's another one right there. Alrighty guys, we are back at the Old West Town project. I was thinking a lot about this project while I was working in the nether, and I've got some ideas that I think are going to make this area a lot nicer. One of the issues I was having, as you saw when I was bringing up the picture, I'll bring it up again really quickly just to show you what I was talking about, but I didn't like the fact that this area was going to be walled in. I didn't think that that was kind of natural, especially for the aesthetic we're going for. Old West Towns, you know, you look at pictures and they never have walls around them. It would just look, you know, weird. And I was sort of talking through the ideas with a friend of mine, and I realized that this landmass that we're building on is really not that big. Like, in total size, it's actually smaller than our island, right? And we lit that whole thing up. So I was thinking, if I just light up this whole area with hidden light sources on this little landmass, and then make sure that all of the edges here are 2 blocks high, then mobs won't be able to jump up, and the whole area that we're building in will be safe for the villagers to live. As far as I know, villagers won't naturally walk off of a too high drop, and the center of the village will be pretty far from the edges of here, so I don't see the villagers wandering off and getting stuck on the edges. I think that the best move for us to make this area look as nice as possible is to light up as much of this as possible, which might mean pushing back a little bit more of this land, unfortunately, because I want to make sure it's at the exact height that we need it to be. and then I'll probably cover the majority of the actual area that we're building with in this brown terracotta, so that when we need to light up the town and the surrounding area, we can use brown carpet. And by having the brown carpet, we'll be able to hide light sources down underground without spamming torches like you guys know I hate. So I think that's what we're going to be kind of working towards for the next little while before we do any major town building work. I might do some basic laying out of the foundations for some of the buildings, because I want to get a sense of how big the town will be before we do any lighting. But I think for a little while, this area is going to have a bit of unstructured progress where I just do, little bits at a time to get started on the project before we sit down and commit to, a full time lapse where I build up, a full building or a bunch of buildings at once, because we're still very much in the planning stage for this place. So I'm going to get started on some little bits and pieces, maybe do some more grinding work of clearing some of this land, and then I'll get back to you guys when I've made some progress. Alrighty guys, welcome back from the time-lapse. This was an absolutely massive grind. I don't know how long it's going to take in time-lapse form to show you guys everything that happened, but I'll just really quickly go over some of the highlights. One of the things that we had to do was make sure that nowhere around the landmass here had less than a 2-block jump. That way any villagers that come around the edge won't want to hop off. Naturally, their pathfinding won't take them off the edge, so we can keep them close. And I've missed a spot, of course. Hopefully there's no more. I'll do a little bit of a sweep later to make sure that we haven't missed anything. But the next step was to make sure that the entire main section of the island, not necessarily the whole... I keep saying island. This isn't an island, and I apologize. I'm probably going to be saying island for a long time because of the area that we've been working in before. I don't really know what to call this. I've been calling it landmass or other things off and on, so my apologies for that. But one of the things I wanted to do was make sure that the main section of this land was all the brown terracotta, because that will blend with the light sources that we're using the best. It's not that big a deal if some of the stuff on the fringes is a little bit more visible. As long as the main landmass itself has more hidden lights, I think it's totally fine. And with that, I apologize, but I think it's time for us to wrap up this episode. We didn't get a ton of building done, which I apologize for. We mostly just swung a pickaxe the entire episode, clearing what will be the nether hub and then grinding for all the brown terracotta that we needed for this landmass. And then because that took so long, unfortunately we didn't really get a chance to actually build anything. But this puts us in a really good spot for next episode, because since all the grind work is done, now we can just hop right into building whatever we want. So I think we're going to start next week's episode by laying out the foundations for all the buildings here, or at the very least laying out the main street and where the buildings themselves will go. Once that's done, we can start working in our creative world, laying out some of the actual structures, and maybe even getting a chance to build some on the island. But that's going to have to wait for one more week. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions for things you'd like to see us build in this Let's Play series, please feel free to comment. I read all the comments, and it really helps getting that feedback from you guys. But that aside, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.